All right, ladies and gentlemen. Our first artist is Culley Bunker, founder and lead visual effects artist for Skulley Effects. That's why I took the stairs.
Nobody said I was athletic.
Our next artist, Jeff Unay, film director and artist. Isn't it fun? And finally, Mr. Keith Guerette, CEO and founder of Beyond Effects.
You got your own mic.
Thank you guys for joining me. Yes, you have your own mic.
Okay.
So I'm going to let you guys. Do you want to do karaoke?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to let you guys just talk quickly, give a brief overview of your companies and what you're doing, and go ahead.
Culley Bunker, 98 graduate DAD. I have a small company in Los Angeles called Skulley Effects. We handle anything visual effects from movies, TV shows, and commercials, and music videos. I work with Lady Gaga, Mariah Carey, Pink, and hopefully soon a very popular show. But worked on Hunger Games and Righteous Gemstones and thousands of others. So they all blend together after a while.
Sure they did. Jeff?
Hi, my name is Jeff Unay. I currently work at Valve. I've been there for over 15 years now, and I also direct and produce documentary films, and I'm currently on my third feature documentary. Yeah.
15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm Keith. I am the founder of Beyond Effects. I'm a real-time visual effects artist, so working in games, creating effects. I started a studio about a decade ago, and we are now a global company and a part of a larger global company, but 57 employees working on 15 games simultaneously, all about just visual effects for games.
Nice.
How long? I heard 20 years.
Too long. I've been running this for 10 years. Prior to that, I was the lead effects artist at Naughty Dog for about a decade. And I graduated in 2004 from Pete's program.
Been running my company for 20 years, guys.
We're a bunch of old people up here.
20 years of pain and suffering.
Okay, so topic is you've been in effects for a year. Now what? So this is
Go way
Very
back.
vague,
guys.
my friend. That's whoa. What part of visual effects? Are you in games? Are you in?
It's a good question.
It is.
It is different. Also, this is a trap for everybody, but we say VFX for games, and what we specifically mean is particle simulations. But when we talk about VFX for film, it's really all of CG, right?
Dynamics.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And for us, it's a little wider area.
Yeah.
Well, how many folks here hope to work in visual effects for film? Yeah, okay. And video games. I mean, they all kind of blend, so that's okay to raise your hand.
Yeah, they're
multiple
crossing
times.
over more and more.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Jeff, I'm going to go to you because you were telling an interesting story about first times, the Millennium Falcon story I was thinking of.
Yeah, so once I finished Full Sail, this was in '02, I ended up, my first film job was at Tippett Studio, and Tippett is just an amazing, Phil Tippett's an amazing artist, and a lot of the artists there have worked in like practical effects, model making. So one of the guys that I was sitting next to, his name is Izao Young, and he had built the Millennium Falcon for the original Star Wars films. And here he is sitting right next to me with his big, long, resume of amazing things. Yeah, we were sitting next to each other just creating models for the next big film we were working on, which was, at the time, it was Hellboy with Guillermo del Toro directing it. And I remember him telling me, I remember asking him so many questions, like, how do I do this? How do I submit a model into the pipeline? And basic newbie questions. And he kind of figured out I was very curious about how everything worked. And he said, well, one day you're going to be, people are going to be asking you how to do a bunch of stuff. And I remember thinking that's really funny. And a year later, they kind of put me on the fast track to be a lead modeler. on this one film, and he was. I would not say he was working. He was working with me, but he was now asking me a bunch of questions, and we just kind of laughed about that. But I guess my point is, just be really curious. As soon as you arrive into a studio like that, you are amongst veterans, guys that have been there, have have families. It's not just like a passion thing for them, but it's like real work, how they put food on their table. Respect the years of work and sacrifice they've put in. I think that really helps. Like just being really humble and maintaining that humble heart throughout your entire career, because I think that can take you a really far way.
I have two separate lines of thought that I want to explore off that. One of them, I think, one of the key components about what Jeff was just describing is that he was willing to ask for help. And I think that's a really big fallacy that I see in a lot of people that are just getting started, is that they feel like they've got so much to prove that they don't ask for help. And there's both a pragmatic and a heartfelt answer to this. One of them is, the heartfelt one is that all of us like helping. We want to help the people that we're working with, because that's how we all get better, that's how we all do better, and the end product is better. The more pragmatic one is, you guys are going to have the ability to break all of our stuff. And if you don't ask for help when you run into a problem, you're more likely to break all of your stuff and then make me go in and clean it up, and then I'm going to be pissed at you. So please ask for help when you run into a problem that you just don't know the right way through. Everyone wants to help you get better and wants to help empower you to do your job better. So I always tell people the bravest thing you can do is ask for help, but it's also like, that is your job. Your job is to ask for help to make sure that you're doing it right. So do not try to be egotistical and just hunker down.
Research that question before you ask for help, though, so you have a little bit of knowledge behind it as well. So take it upon yourself to go that a little extra step. When you ask for help, make sure you know a little bit behind that, and then they can expand upon it. Because if you're going and just asking certain things, like I had an editor once ask me what an EDL was, and I about lost my crap. I don't know. This is beyond you guys. Probably you don't know what an EDL is either, but an editor really should. And if they don't know their own craft, you don't.
But if that was the editor's first job, you probably would have been a lot more forgiving about that.
Probably
question,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think he is pointing out one thing though. There's a difference between me answering like a 1-minute question and me answering an hour-long question. So do be aware of the investment of my time that you're asking for. YouTube is great, so if you can just like shrink down the question to that 1-minute thing and then go back to YouTube, that's also helpful. But the other, Pete, if I can,
help.
The other line of thought that I wanted to pursue is, Jeff also described in that story sort of the fast track of his own growth in that year. And there's a paradigm shift. Like right now you guys are students and some of you are probably about to graduate. When you graduate, you will have probably worked on your specialty for 8 weeks, dedicated time plus the learning.
12, yeah, 8 to 12.
Right, so like 3 months. 3 months while you're learning. When you go and get a job, you're going to be there staring at that problem for 40 hours a week, probably more, for months on end. Like your growth, right now your growth is, it feels like it's skyrocketing, but you're spread really wide. When you get that first job, within the first month, you're going to have doubled in skill. 2 months in, you're going to be actually like a really, really good production artist. 3 months in, you're going to start feeling comfortable at your role. 1 year in, you've got it. So just know that like you're starting on day one, you've got a long way to learn, but that's part of the fun. And it's terrifying, but it's exciting and it's fun. And you are going to be a totally different artist 1 year in.
Culley, anything you want to add to that?
Can we go back to the original question? Because I want to see if I can form this correctly.
It was the idea of you've been at this for a year. Now what?
I'm going to back up from a year.
Go ahead.
I'm going to go, you just got out there and you're looking for a job.
Okay.
The landscape has changed tremendously in the last 2 years. Internships are very hard to get. The simple reason of everybody's thought now. Everything is
Check,
remote.
check. There you go.
There we go. Whoa.
Tough.
Hey. Everything has gone remote, so it's definitely a different time, and I don't know all the answers here, but you guys have to explore them. How do I work with an employer that is all remote now? How do we become an intern? And I actually need to explore this more too, because all my guys are remote. I do have an office. I'm there every day. Nobody ever comes in. But even with these guys, I don't know, Keith, are a lot of your guys remote? Everybody's remote, and
I mean, all
we
of my
have
clients
to.
are
We
remote.
we kind of have to develop these new worlds together. Like, how do I help you as an intern or a first hire out of school learn without being behind you, or you being able to ask a quick question? There's new ways to do it with Slack and huddling and remote, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, but it's just not the same in my eyes. But this is where we're at, so I think we're all exploring this new world. And
I have a lot I can add to that.
yes, yeah, it's and I'm coming to. I just may have got an email about a huge job, and I'm going to need to start staffing up. And I haven't done a lot of internships in a while. It's just been down, but I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's about time, really, because interns remotely are going to take a lot more time than it used to when they're local. So anyway,
Yeah, I mean, so the entire paradigm of being in a studio with new people that you don't know, whether it's me working with Jeff, if Jeff was a stranger or a recent graduate or a brand new client, if you're working next to each other, you immediately have trust because you can see them working. And then you immediately catch an eye on what they're working on because you just walk by their desk on your way to go get water and you go like, oh, dang, that's awesome. That's
or
really
it sparks
coming along.
conversation. Like, oh, you could try this. Yeah.
You don't have that remote. And there's not really, there are a lot of things that facilitate meetings and conversation. There's no solution to that piece of subtle conversation and relationship building. And so the only solution that I've ever had, all of my clients are remote, a large portion of my team are remote. The only solution is you have to over-communicate. And so every single day I start my day and I say good morning to all of my clients. That way they know that I'm there. They know that I'm around. They know that I'm thinking about them. At night, I say, hey, I'm out for the night. This is what I was able to do today. By the end of the week, I'm hoping to have this delivered. And we sort of just I'm really over-indexing on that communication. My junior artists aren't very good at that. And what happens is I'll go days and I'm like, man, I haven't really heard from them. What are they doing? Are they okay? And I don't have the ability to quickly check in without actually just messaging them and saying, yo, you haven't shared anything. What are you doing? And that feels pretty invasive. And so you, especially as entry-level people, one of the best things you can do is focus on building that relationship with the people around you, even if you're remote, and index in it. Spend some energy and time into building those relationships because that's who you're going to go to for help. That's who's going to get you your next job.
Even if it's not a requirement, maybe if you have Slack or a communication channel, just tell them, hey, I'm here. I checked in.
Say good
doing
morning.
some work. Just keep checking in. If it's not a requirement, they'll love that. It's like, oh, this guy's, he's talking to me, he's communicating, he or she, and they're giving me updates.
It's really easy to stand out actually by doing that. But it's super cliche, but I use this all the time. And I tell all my team this. We're in the business of relationships, and we happen to make good effects along the way. You investing in the relationships with the people around you are how you're going to excel at your job, how you're going to have the safety buffer on your bad day, how you're going to get pulled into the next contract. If you invest in that and also work, I would challenge, the other way to think about this is if you're an asshole but a great effects artist, I'm still not going to work with you again.
Yeah. Work is 40%, and wanting to work with somebody is almost 60%. I've had highly skilled people I just don't want to work with, and I'd rather give somebody that has a personable outlook and experience more of a leeway.
And yeah, so at Valve, I would say everyone's there 3, 4, 5 days a week now. It's really important. It's just the company where you want to be collaborating with the folks around you. You want to give folks an update on what you're doing. No one's wanting to chase you down, right? That's the last thing people want to do, is to see how you're doing. If they don't hear from you in a while, it's not a good place to be. So at Valve, it's really important. I could do the majority of the work that I'm currently doing on a project there at home, but by going in, you have those conversations, you have that interaction, and it's really invaluable. I would say, as someone that's going into the visual effects industry, if there's an opportunity to work in the office, especially for the next your first 2 or 3 plus years, I would probably take that, because consider that still time that you're learning about this whole industry, if you like it or not, if you like the people, if you like the type of work. And I would expect to learn a ton just from being around,
And that builds
artists.
personal relationships. You can go out to lunch
Yeah.
with people.
Yeah. And you're really building trust, I've been at Valve for 15 years, and people choose to work with who they want. That's just the way the company works. And if people don't really trust you, they're going to just stop going to you. And eventually, you'll find yourself in a bad spot. So you have to over communicate and just be clear about what you're doing and what your goals are, because people don't, even at Valve, they don't even want to set. No one's setting your goal for you. It's a really unique environment, and it sounds like easy that way, but it's really not. It's actually the other way around.
Pressure's on.
It's like, what are you bringing to this project? Yeah.
Okay, let's have the fun conversation, shall we?
Yeah.
Our world is changing, as we've discussed, not just remote. We've got these new tools that are available to us on a regular basis, and it's all the rage. All the kids are doing.
Oh, yeah.
AI. Artificial intelligence has been a game changer from the basics of writing an email to our industry.
Yeah.
I would be curious how you guys have brought it into your worlds and how you're using it and how it's helped you in any way, shape, or form.
Just used it this morning.
There's so many aspects. Right now, process is more than art, in my opinion. Almost anything you see that's coming out of AI for imagery all has the same look to a certain degree. That depth of field, that feel. The only thing I can say about that is it's going to get better. It's going to get better and better. But right now, clients seem to think it is what we've called for 20 years a make it good button.
Yeah.
Like, hey, just make it good.
And money saver.
And a money saver. And it is not. AI de-aged layer. It comes with its own set of problems. It's only 1K by 1K. It has to be up-resed. It's only 8-bit. It's clipping the darks and the lights. So it took all the artistry that we've learned the last 20 years to take that layer and use it as kind of a guide. And in the end, maybe a quarter of that actual image was used for the rest of it. But on the other side, pipeline. Pipeline is and coding massively sped up. I've got a pipeline engineer that does a week's worth of work in a day now. We're using Claude to parse all of our incoming data, and it figures out what it is, puts it in the right folders, puts it all in ShotGrid, and you have a database of anything that comes in, and it's trainable. So something new comes in, you tell it what it is, it knows what to do with it. And then after you have all that data, you can make tools around it, you can make deliverables. So right now, I'm finding that the biggest advantage is coding and pipeline. Imagery, it's still Wild West. Can you use it? Is it copyrightable? It's great for prototyping, but final pixels, unless you're putting it on YouTube, not for broadcast.
It's great for writing.
It's great for writing.
I just
forgot
used
about
it
that
this
part.
morning. So I'm closing funding on my current film now, which I'm super excited about. But part of I have a bunch of deliverables that I'm working on right now, in the hotel room while I'm not here, finishing a bunch of stuff. And one of the things that they need is a 500-word explanation of what the film is, and I have like 1,200 words existing. Copy and paste into ChatGPT. Give me 499 words. Bam. Quick adjustments, and one deliverable done. You know what I mean? So I think you have to just ask. You have to ask it the right questions. That's probably easier said than done. But I would just say, if I was a student now going into the industry, it would really benefit you to know what all those shortcut tools are in AI, how to use it, how to think about using it. And I think that's something that you would possibly have an edge on over some of the veterans that you're probably going to end up finding yourself working with. So that could be a nice little advantage. It's not going anywhere. I would just try to find ways to incorporate it into your work. Maybe that's your homework out of this, is to say, hey, I need to create an animation, or I need to create a model. How can I use any existing AI tools now? Just to be able to say that you're even dabbling with this, I think it could be really helpful.
Is anybody using Comfy UI or Kling or Runway?
Meshy, Midjourney.
You should be. You should all be looking at that. Yeah. Especially just creating elements for compositing or previs. I was surprised none of you raised your hands, because I barely know how to use it, and I'm using it. Like, just throwing. I need a crow on green screen. Doesn't output the right shit, but excuse me. Doesn't output the right stuff, but it's really interesting to see. And once in a while, it does put out something that works. One thing that he reminded me of when he said writing, contracts.
There you go, yeah.
Contracts is amazing. Or if you get in a legal dispute, you just copy and paste in ChatGPT and say, this is what's happening, I need to write back. And it spits out something. I just went through this. It's awesome.
Amazing.
And it helps you. You don't have to necessarily hire a lawyer until it goes too far, but it really helps you get around these aspects that you're not even thinking of. Taxes.
Oh, I was just talking about
accounting.
I was just talking to Stephen C. Miller right before we walked in here, and I asked him about how AI was affecting his film work as a director, and we talked about the writing room shrinking. You know?
Yeah,
man.
you can feed it good ideas, and it fills in the middle, and then you keep honing it.
Yeah.
It's almost like a writing partner, right?
No doubt.
It really it gives you the meat, and you give it the bones, right?
Mm-hmm. There's one thing that both of you guys said that I think is worth reiterating here, which is that it's a tool right now. And what I want to turn attention to is that I think at each of our points where we sort of launched our careers, we jumped in and became successful because we were one of the few people doing something a little bit more modern than all of our competition, if you want to think of it that way.
Absolutely.
And so when I see that the tools are changing, all of us that currently have jobs, we don't get to spend a lot of time learning the new stuff because we have to do our old job. You guys have a remarkable opportunity to come in and learn how to use the new amazing stuff and take our jobs from us. Because all of these things, they're just tools. The people with money are not going to AI yet and saying, make me a game. They're going to us and saying, help me make a game, and then we have to go figure out how to use AI or all those respective tools. The job is still there. It's now just another layer of tools for us to try to use, and it's tools that most people in the industry are not adapting quick enough to. And so there are a lot of people that are asking, hey, can you help us figure out how to use these new tools to solve our problems? And most of us have to say, I have no idea.
You're exactly right, and it gives me anxiety. I literally wake up at night getting AI updates, and I don't have time to investigate it. He's exactly right. You guys do. Get into it, because you could, if you're not taking our jobs, you can take and get a job from one of us when you show us that you're into it. And you're like, hey, look what I did, this new thing, I could do this, I could use Comfy UI, and it's right in Nuke, and I know how to do that. I'm like, ooh, let's talk. That's happening right now. I saw a YouTube video where they integrated Comfy UI using Python, and you can get, I don't know if it's just for previs because I haven't experienced it enough, but right into Nuke, boom, 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 I got a layer I need, composite into something else. Amazing.
Nice. Well, thank you. That brings us back to, we'll just jump back to your first year, and you mentioned, hey, you're getting a job. You've all had the experience of you've gotten your first job, and then you're on a contract basis, right? and contracts are starting to come to an end for that particular job, and then it's, am I going to get hired back into this studio? Are they going to offer me another contract, or what do I do now?
Live within your means, you know? I think it's, I can't say I did a good job of that probably when I was coming up, you know. I mean, I didn't buy any fancy things, but, you know, like living in California is expensive. And I would just, I remember being at Tippett Studio and, you know, having finished a couple films and a handful of different commercials, and everyone was like, we haven't gotten the funding yet for this big project that is supposed to come through. And they were already warning people, you know, hey, some of the veterans or some of the guys that have been here for a number of years that are really expensive, they might have to move them to 3 days a week or something like that. And yeah, just be prepared. I mean, that's part of how the industry works. I mean, I also worked at Weta Digital in New Zealand, and I was there for 4.5 years, and I worked on King Kong. I remember signing a year contract on that project, and I was unsure. Once the film was almost done, I was unsure, like, am I going to get brought back on? And then Avatar was another big one that was coming on, and I had a 2-year contract to begin with, and then another 2 years after that. I guess you just have to get used to how some of these production cycles work and be comfortable with it, and just try to save some pennies, put it on, you know, save it for a rainy day, because you just never know. I don't know what else to say about that.
I actually just did an entire lecture on this.
Can you give us the?
Yeah, I mean, so there's really 2 types of relationships you're going to have with work coming out of this. One is you're going to land a solid full-time position where you're an employee and you are just cushy. You know that you've got comfort. Even that's not necessarily that stable. The other one is that you're on contract work. A lot of our industry is freelance, temporary, full-time, contractors, whatever it is. No matter what I would encourage you guys to do is start to think of yourselves as your own brand, as your own company. And what you should be doing the entire time you're working is thinking about how to manage that brand. So capture your work, make sure that you're networking, make sure that you're putting your stuff out there, and then always look for your next job. Truthfully, you're going to get better promotions, not by staying at one company, but by moving on to the next opportunity. And you're going to be able to chase your heart and your passions. And so if you view yourself as a brand and you put yourself out there as a business and try to manage it, so that, again, you're focusing on relationships and you happen to make great art along the way, you are always going to have huge opportunities in front of you, even when something to your current position catches you off guard.
They didn't have social media when we were coming up, right? So you all have that, and you can definitely communicate out to the world your skills. I would just add, you know, try to be as respectful to your current employer as possible.
Otherwise, you'll get fired.
You will get fired. I've seen it happen. It's kind of sad, and people always seem surprised by it, but it's like, dude, you're posting about ridiculous stuff that's, you know, company business.
In my mind, I count that as managing your own brand. So just to explain what I mean by that is, like, I know when I talk to Jeff and when I work with Jeff, I'm going to get quality. I'm also going to get a really good human being. I know that when I go out drinking with Culley, I'm probably going to get drunk under the table. Those are both, like, my perceptions.
Apparently that's my brand. More like, I'm going to have a good time.
Where are we going after this, Skulley?
But what I mean by that is you want to make sure that you're exhibiting and portraying exactly the messaging that you want, so that other people, when someone else out there thinks, I need help, they think of you as the solution.
Going back to the first year out, some of you aren't going to know this. Getting your work that you've worked on sometimes can be difficult. Ask the employer when you get hired, what's your policies on being able to show my work? That's a huge thing, and sometimes you won't be able to. Sometimes you're going to have to steal it off the website because you're never going to be able to get your work, and that's the only way you can do it. And we've all done it because we don't get our work. We have to pull it from somewhere so we can show at least the after. But if you can show the before and after,
or pulled from the Blu-ray after like
pull it from the
many
Blu-ray,
months later.
or and then sometimes they're going to say you can't show this publicly. But if you have a private reel and you password it, I'm okay with it. There's a lot of different levels it's going to happen, and it's very, sometimes it's very difficult to show anything. Like the majority of the stuff I work on, you can only see the afters unless you're personally with me, because I can't show you big Beyonce, I can't show you ugly Gaga. Like that's not something that's going to happen unless you're physically there and I control that media. So that's, just a little tidbit of knowledge.
Yeah.
A lot of people get caught off guard by project cancellations, et cetera, without having captured any work. And it sucks to like suddenly find yourself needing to find a job and not having any captures from your work for the past several years.
But this was where networking comes in, because I know you guys, when's the last time you actually showed a reel? People know you, they know you're going to do quality work. Yeah. I'm having to do it now because I'm a company, but as a person, I haven't had to show a reel in 15 years. So you make that network, you build that trust with a lot of people.
Yeah, I haven't
get
applied
the
to
work,
a job in
I know
probably like
15
25 years. Yeah.
What was the longest you ever went in between contracts? Just because, being prepared and having that backup, right? That's always important. And as you said, storing up the money for a rainy day. What do you think the longest it was between contracts?
I have a different way to put that.
Okay.
Longest without actually income.
Yeah.
We were working, but we were what's called buying the job. There was so few work out there that we would take a job just to pay my employees that we were going to lose money on. And that was almost a year. Like all my savings, everything was drained to keep the company open and keep the people paid or somebody working so that I could keep my staff. And that was last year. That strikes killed. I'm working on another job right now that we pretty much bought. So it's an interesting thing, but yeah, save for a rainy day. Buy some, treat yourself now and then, but always save for a rainy day. We're a nomadic species, us visual effects artists. I know these guys, they've been in their business for a long time. They kind of control what they can do, but a lot of us can't. You have to go where the rebates are, wherever the government's giving free money to these companies, and it's just the way it is. Canada's a huge place for visual effects. Video games, I'm not as up on. Atlanta was a huge place. They were given the rebates. It just moves around, unfortunately. Yeah. And what's crazy is most of the people are the same people. They just have to move to the places because those places aren't fostering visual effects people that fast to fill the positions, so they have to move them in.
I've talked to a few students over the past few years here at Full Sail, and I've always asked them like, oh, okay, well, what's your ideal job? Oh, I want to go work at Pixar or ILM or Weta Digital or something like that, or Naughty Dog or Valve. And then I ask them, okay, well, what are your? Are you interested in like maybe moving and going to work somewhere else in the meantime before you reach that big goal of yours? And I almost always hear, no, I'd rather stay in Florida. And then, maybe if I do land that job in California or whatever, I'll go do that. I remember thinking like, dude, that is not how this shit works. Sorry. Are we live? Yeah.
Live to tape, there's a 2-second delay.
I would just say, be really open. Try to build your skills as much as possible. Don't be picky. I think with social media nowadays too, right? Like, there's this whole perception of success, and you want to make sure that, oh, I'm a Full Sail student and I got a big job at this really cool place right out the gate. Well, fair enough, that might happen for some folks, but large majority it's not. I would just say, wherever you can get work, take it, excel, be really good there, be really valuable there, and just keep going. My first job out of Full Sail wasn't in film. It was at a video game company called Raven Software. I was working on this new crazy hot technology called normal maps for Quake 4. And that was super top secret. And I went there yeah, no, I love the work, but I didn't expect myself to be in like Madison, Wisconsin. I really didn't. And as much as I love the work, and we did really incredible stuff there with a great staff, I was still going home and working on my portfolio. I always said, once I get a job in this industry, I'm gonna like slow down a little bit and like try to enjoy life a little. But that's not how it worked for me. I was still pretty hungry and, you know, improving my skills and like proving to myself I was gonna be like, you know, as good as I could possibly be. So,
You don't know where the road's going to take you. I wanted
Yeah.
to do visual effects for films, and somehow I got into music videos, and I liked it. So,
Yeah.
you know, you don't know what you don't know what you're going to know till you do it, right? So,
be
don't
open.
don't pass up that job because
Yeah.
it's not exactly what you want.
Yeah.
These days, you can't afford to do that.
No.
Don't. It's hard to say settle. Don't settle. You know, expand. I'll take this, learn, and then see what happens.
Yep.
I think we're swinging kind of wide from your question, but I was wondering if I
We
can
always-
also
Go for it.
go wide again.
Go away.
Okay. There's an idea here as well that I keep seeing students, when they graduate, a couple of them will apply to a couple places, and then they don't hear anything back, and then they give up. Or I see students that have the hustle and grind, and they keep going, and they keep going, and they keep going, and then finally they get one offer, and then it's like floodgates open, and they get 5 offers, 10 offers, 20 offers, and then all of a sudden they're like coming back to me crying and stressed because they have so many offers and they have no idea what to do. And I've always been fascinated by that, and what I've come to recognize is like a better understanding of what networking is. And I want to just take a beat to posit this, because I think we always say networking. You probably are hearing it so much shoved down your throat, but nobody really does a good job explaining what networking is. And to me, all that networking is finding different ways so that when I have a problem, I think of you as a solution. That's all that it is.
Oh, yeah.
And nowadays with online presences, communities, remote work, like there's so many different ways that can happen. I can think of you because you're doing such a good job being a really cool student on a community, on an art website somewhere, and you're producing great work, but you're also taking feedback really well, and I could need somebody. Or I could think of you because I saw you downstairs of my office on the street with a sign saying, "Give me a job." Like, there's so many different ways that this can happen. And so what I want for you to try to do when you're trying to figure out your next steps is think about it from their perspective. The other layer that I want to add to this is that I've found that there's 2 types of hires. There's hires when I know that I need an expert and I'm willing to spend a lot of time finding that expert. You guys probably aren't going to get pulled into those. The other type is what I've just classically called the oh shit hire, which is, man, my deadline's in a week and I'm not going to make it. I really need somebody right here, right now. And the best thing that you can do to get that job is be the first person I think of that can actually come and take that job. Being remote makes it easier, but I've seen a lot of people get their first jobs in cities that they don't live in just by saying, yeah, I can be there on Monday. Even if they don't live there, just saying, yeah, sure. And then they come and crash on a couch and they show up on Monday. So just try to find ways to increase your odds on those dice rolls, basically.
At this point, we can open it up for questions. If we've got anything online, or there's microphones set up in the back. So any questions to go, please do. I'll keep it going. You know, you bring up the interesting point of the being there. That whole, yes, I'm going to take the job, and yeah, I'm going to have to drive for 2 days to get there on Monday, overnight, and sleep in my car. But I'm going to take that job just to get myself started. I'm sure everybody's had that experience at some point throughout their lives. Anything you want to share on that note?
Oh, actually, when I was a student here, one of my classmates, he ended up getting, I was telling you this earlier, Pete, he ended up getting a job at Tippett Studio before me, and he started as it was like an entry-level match moving job. Do they still match move?
Yeah, sometimes.
You have match movers? Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Just did it last week.
Okay. So he had a match moving job, and a character modeling position opened up on Hellboy, and he thought of me. And so he reached out to me, put me in contact with the art director, and guess what I ended up showing him? All the new stuff that I had done over the last like 3 or 4 months on my own. I couldn't show him any of the work that I was doing at Raven, but I showed him all my previous stuff, and then I showed him all the new stuff that I was working on, and there you go. That's how I got a job. So you really don't know the person sitting next to you, or one of your colleagues, or someone that you kind of sort of know, but you're in a few classes with. That person, if you leave a good impression on that person, you never know. That I would actually just expect it. I would expect that, you know, the people around you are going to be in your lives at some point later, and you want it to be a good thing.
I mean, that's why Culley said he hasn't showed a reel in years. It's because our network now pulls us into our jobs.
Yep.
Yeah.
One thing, I don't know if this is pertinent these days, but, and I don't know if it's PC, but sacrifice. There's so many people that want to do this job. It's become like acting. And if you're not willing to sacrifice something, time, location, I don't know what it is, but somebody else will. So if you're willing to sacrifice and you just don't stop swimming, right? If you stop, you're never going to get there. So again, I don't know, things are different than when I came up, but I still think that is something that is, looked upon.
I think you're 100% right there. I mean, sacrifice is what it's all about. You've got to be willing, if you're passionate about it, sacrifice. I talked to the students at BTS about that, and so yeah.
It's just real world.
Can I flip that really quick?
Please.
It's also remarkably easy to stand out by just working hard, by just paying attention. I'd say 50% of the resumes that I get don't even have spell check done on them. I saw a guy misspell his own name last year. The bar is remarkably low because not a lot of people do what Jeff did, where he's got a job and he's also still pushing himself. And so, in my opinion, if somebody came to me and showed me all the extra portfolio stuff they've been doing on their own time while working, immediate cream of the crop.
Yep. Or look at this new thing I found. Maybe you didn't know about it. Because so much stuff is going on with AI and new plugins and new everything. I don't have time to find it. If I had an employee that came to me and was like, dude, this thing's awesome. Maybe we could use it here, here, here. I'm like, ooh, yeah.
That's a great reputation to have.
Yes.
Someone that is always looking under rocks for the latest and greatest new way to automate,
Or
a bunch
even,
of tasks.
Even hey, I know this guy over at this other company. They were doing this. Maybe we could talk to them about, there's a lot of different ways. Just just find that niche or that way to talk to somebody about something cool, something new, some news, That's the way, especially even remote, that's the way you become personable and share.
We've got our first student question. Go ahead.
Hi there.
Way in the back.
My name's Sophia, and I'm a recent graduate who specializes in compositing. And my question is, what skills are essential for a junior VFX artist to develop to progress in the industry?
Just getting out of school, most likely you're going to need to be able to 3D track, even though it's 2D, 3D track using Synthize or Nuke, 3D track a camera. Make sure you have your lens. What am I looking for? ST maps and lens correction, and roto. Those are some of the entry-level points for a compositor. Green screen keys, kind of third on that list, if you can do good keying. Right now, Mocha is a very good roto app. It has an AI that gets you a long ways very easily now, which is awesome. I just did something for Beyonce in the Super Bowl, and I tracked 1,500 frames in 10 minutes. It was a hat that we had to hold out. It was insane. So a lot of good tools out there now, and I think those are the three base things to learn to get in on the ground floor.
I think areas where you can pretty easily stand out in your career is to have a really good understanding of color spaces, know what ACES actually is, to have a really good understanding of data flow, meaning 32-bit color channels and high dynamic range imagery. If you can actually work in a pipeline with an understanding data, you're going to stand out. And then right now, again, if you can use AI tools, you have such a massive opportunity to sweep over even entire companies.
Great, thank you.
Go ahead, next question.
Hello, I'm Grace. I'm in the game art degree at Full Sail. You guys briefly said that the film and the game VFX industry is slowly kind of meshing together. Can you guys talk a little more on that and what programs differ between them?
Oh man.
Can I take it?
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
You're talking about VFX, like particle simulations for games specifically, right? Okay.
And the difference between film.
Yeah, we're still pretty wide apart. I still don't think that a film artist can inherently be useful to me in games yet. I was just telling Chops, we're probably one console generation away from really being able to use volumetric effects in games. There's a couple cool tools. There's a company called Zebra that's just like a tiny little team, but they wrote a compression software for OpenVDB, so fluid simulations, that shrinks to like 1/100th the file size. It's awesome. And so we're finally actually able to get big OpenVDB simulations, meaning like from film pipelines, and put them into a game and actually play them back at frame rate and not just tank our disk space. So it's just starting. Houdini actually is just now putting it into their pipelines as well. Besides that, like, I don't really care what DCC apps you use. I don't care if you use Maya, Max, Houdini, Shake, Nuke, Fume Effects, Embergen. All that I really care about is what can you actually do in the game engine. So if you're in Unreal, we're talking about Niagara, and how can you actually use shaders and connect it into the gameplay logic to make it feel good. Because game effects, one fundamental difference is that film effects are about looking good, game effects are about feeling good. And so looking good is kind of a secondary, sometimes a tertiary goal for what we do.
Okay.
So I guess on my end, it's a lot easier because we're looking at final pixels in not real time. So we are doing a project right now that the environment was made in Unreal, using some, kit bashing, basically some environments, some mountains, and then we're using V-Ray's Phoenix to do the water sim for waterfall. And after those are both combined into Maya and rendered in V-Ray. So we're using multiple tools, but we've found that iterating in Unreal is much faster than Maya.
So you're just building the environment on Unreal?
We're using the environment. We're taking the environment into Maya, and then we're simming using Phoenix.
That's cool.
And then, yeah, and I'll show you some pictures afterwards.
Amazing.
It's really cool. So yeah, it's a matter of a game student can come out and they can prototype a lot faster than I can get from Maya. And these days you need fast.
Yeah.
Like for TV shows and stuff, the budgets are getting smaller, compressing the time frames. So Unreal is going to be a very useful tool in film.
The three remaining trades, I'd say, in games that don't really cross over well to film are VFX, lighting, and tech art.
All the stuff that needs to happen in real time.
Yeah, basically. And tech art is like, it's because our pipelines are different. You still have riggers in both cases, but even rigging for games is quite different than rigging for films.
Yeah, when it comes to characters, in games, to the work that I've done in film, there's no now I could say that I don't think there's a difference anymore.
Wow.
With the level of complexity in the characters that are being developed in games to what I've done in film, I've led the team at Wedded Digital as a facial lead artist, working on all the main characters, all the creatures, like the level of detail that we've put into building those facial systems for those like leading digital actors and characters. The work that we're doing now is, actually I would say is in a lot of ways even more complex. So I think you just have to, just when it comes to building characters, just have a really good eye for sculpture. And it goes back to kind of like the traditional skills, because sculpting now with the amount of polygons available, I mean, just get really good at sculpting.
Okay, thank you.
And next question.
Hi, my name is Evan Munoz. I'm an aspiring compositor in the music video industry. I wanted to know, when you talked about networking, you told us about standing out from our competition. And I wanted to know what can I do to show that besides having the skills in the compositing and having the skills in communication, how can I do that particularly for the music video industry?
Social media, right? Like
media.
whatever you can do,
TikTok.
whatever you can share on social media, like just to show your skills. Like if I had that,
But-
back then we had like websites. You'd have to build a website and then I'd have to share. And then if you had a really good website, it would go viral, I guess, amongst the industry and whatnot. But nowadays, man, if I were you guys, man, I would be pimping all kinds of cool stuff that I'm working on Instagram. You know what I mean? And you're gonna build your network there, and then that's going to, I think,
I think
find its way to you.
I'm going to come back to the base question. Who are you trying to stand out to? Because we don't know. Are you trying to stand out to bands that you want to work for, a company you want to work for? That kind of tailors the question or the answer.
I would say I'm more definitely geared towards the creative, but I know that my role would be to execute somebody else's vision. So the person doing the hiring would be the person that I want to stand out to.
So you want to work at a studio?
Yes.
Yeah. So then,
You don't want to direct, or you
Not.
Okay.
My priority right now is to get an entry-level job. So
Okay.
No.
so then, what you should be asking is, where does Culley look to find compositors for his music videos? And what you should do is make sure that you are all over that particular location. He probably looks near. I'm gonna project onto you, Culley. You look at your local network around you. You look for people immediately in LA, and then you might look at schools like Full Sail. And I don't know. Do you guys have any good online communities that you pull from, Culley?
quite honestly, I just give people my number.
Okay.
9 times out of 10, they won't call me. I came here and actually made a special email because I thought I was going to get
Inundated.
I can't say that right. Inundated with people contacting me. Nope. They get 1, 2 people and then they give up. I'm a very, very busy person, and if you contact me, I may not answer the first or second time, but eventually I'll try to talk to somebody. And I just gave up. You want my number? Come get it. For me personally, if you want to stand out, after you give me after you take my number, have something good to look at on your phone. But that's me again. TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. There's huge communities out there doing music videos, and obviously right now AI is huge. If you can show me how you use AI right now and you can make it look good and direct it to a certain degree, the big word direct AI, that's almost impossible. But if you can, I definitely want to see your work. And I'm sorry it's made it personal, but yeah, I'm looking for that.
You know what I've done is I'll talk to some of the teachers here. I'll be like, who's standing out? If Larry Katz says,
Check this guy out.
this person is a really hard worker, and I'm like, you vetted that person. Yeah. I'm okay. Well, I want to talk to that person. Actually, on the current film that I'm working on right now, we needed an assistant editor on location with us in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. And I talked to Larry. I said, who's someone that you think is, what student here could really use like a nice little start? And he mentioned someone, and I think Brandon is now teaching. Oh no, sorry, he's on a panel about like my first couple years out of the industry,
That's exactly it.
Yeah, so
teachers.
impress your teachers.
Yep.
Impress Pete. If Pete comes to me and says like, man, this person won't give up. This person's got a heart of a lion and is such a great spirit to be around and is a hell of an artist.
I can't.
There you go.
I can't stress this enough. I've hired people almost every time for the very few recommendations from people I trust here.
Yeah.
Almost every time they've given me something, I've tried to put that person in effect.
Yeah.
And I hate to bring that name up again, but yes, Larry Katz.
I go to Larry.
Mac
for any
Rutan.
film work. Yeah.
Pete, I don't think we've really.
We've tried a couple times. We
Sometimes it doesn't work.
It doesn't work out.
But
sometimes.
like coming from a teacher here, you're going to get my attention. And that's not to say that they're going to give it to you without you trying, because they want to they want to make sure their reputation is stellar. So when we do get that recommendation, we don't even question it.
Yep. Well, thank you very much for your time, Culley, Jeff, Keith. Great seeing you guys again,
Thank
as
you.
always.
Thanks for having us.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Hope you enjoyed it.
Oh,
Thank you.
oh, thanks. I thought it was off. I was like, is it on still? It's not a wrap till the mic.